Welcome to another episode of Real BMX Racing the Podcast. Today's show is sponsored by Wrenchman Wheel Builds, BMX Connect, Extreme Squared, Answer BMX, 110% Nutrition with a special shout out to Toby Henderson over at Send It. Today's guest is USA BMX 21 to 30 women's expert rider Violet Cejalvo. Violet, welcome to the show.
So how old were you when you started racing?
I was 7 years old when I started, and I am 21 now. So I'm going on about 14 years of racing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where did it all start for you?
For me, I'm from Canada. So it started for me where my family grew up in Surrey, British Columbia. And I was 7 years old, and I had my two younger siblings at the time. And my parents, they kind of took all three of us. They didn't tell us where they were taking. They put our bikes from Walmart in the van that we had, and we were driving to some mysterious place. I didn't know where it was, and it ended up being a BMX track. And we were the only ones there because our tracks are usually open 24/7. So we just kind of went there on our own time, and we were the only ones there. And I really hated it because I was like, what are we doing here? I couldn't get up any of the jumps. Like I would roll up and roll right back down. And I fell like a million times that day. And I'm like, why did you guys take me here? This is awful, miserable. And then they didn't really care. And they kept they kept taking us. They ended up taking us to the local practice and the local racing. So there's more people there. We got on some loaner bikes, so better bikes than the Walmart bikes we were on. I raced a few times, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't that bad. And then from there, my family just kind of fell in love with it, and then there was no turning back.
So with what you just said, what track did you go to that's open 24/7?
So the track that I started on, like the very first track from that day, it's this track. It's called Action BMX. It's in Surrey.
Okay.
It's not a BMX Canada track like USA BMX Canada track. It's
Right.
A cycling BC track. I think it's like UCI, so it's a little different.
Oh.
Because we have the two sanctions in British Columbia and in Canada. We kind of have we do both of them.
Okay.
But I think like at the time, and I think it still is true now, like all of our tracks, they're open to the public. Like, so you're allowed to be there in day. Like, obviously that day that we went, we didn't have the gate set up and everything, but we were allowed to just ride the track, which yeah, it's pretty cool. It's something I really loved growing up because any day that you wanted to go ride the track, you could.
That's pretty dope. It ain't like that out here. There's a couple of spots.
Yeah, I was gonna say Richmond has that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I noticed that was one of the first things I noticed when I made the move out here for school was that I was like, oh, we can't just go ride the track.
Right. So how far, well, because growing up in Canada, how far a few were the tracks from you? Were there like a few of them in your area, or are they like spaced out really far?
So where I grew up, I was really, really lucky, and I didn't kind of realize this until now, but I had like 5 tracks. I think it's 5 tracks that were within the hour from me.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I think it's kind of where I live. It's kind of different because every kind of region in the province they're kind of all compact, which kind of makes sense. So you have like multiple to ride from. But I had like 5 that are within the hour, and then if you would go like 4 hours, there would be like another 3. So they're all kind of like in hubs around the province is how I think of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
How big of a scene was it up there?
I mean, growing up, I didn't start going to like the BMX Canada Nationals until maybe like my second or third year. And I remember my first national was, I think it was the Canadian Grands, which is in Chilliwack, which is it was like an hour from me. So super close. It was like an indoor track in a barn, kind of the same thing. And I remember that being like a really big race for me. But then as I grew up, I realized like this is actually nothing compared to the racing they have down in the States, because I started going to Washington and California races. So we like right now, I think we generally get around like for our nationals, maybe like maybe like 150 motos on like at a good busy national. Yeah, so it was good growing up. Like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool being at those big races. It got me really excited. But then when I started kind of getting more into it and getting more serious about it, we started traveling further for races, and I started going into Washington and Oregon and like California, and I was like, wow, there is a lot of people here, and the nationals are huge. So
Right.
definitely different.
Did you ever do the Canada Grands?
Yeah. So I did. I don't even know how many seasons it was, but I did the national series in Canada for all growing up, and we'd always go to Grands. Always, the season opener and the Grands are in the same facility. It was this barn in Chilliwack,
Right.
and I don't know. I've lost count of how many times I've been to Grands, but I was able to win the Canadian National number one girl for 3 of those years. So that's definitely my most memorable part about being in that building.
Okay. How big would you say that the moto count was there for your guys' Grands?
I want to say it's maybe around like 100 motos, if that. Actually, no. For
Because
Grands,
for some reason they don't. Yeah, because some reason they don't like broadcast it, so we don't like get to see it. I don't think.
I know it kind of sucks because I know I would like to watch the races that are happening in Canada just to kind of keep up with everybody. But yeah, I think for Grands it'll be more than 100. Like that's kind of the biggest one.
Okay.
So at those big races, do you find a lot of Americans up there racing?
Yeah, so growing up, like especially the ones like on the West Coast that would come from Washington, Oregon, California, and we'd see a lot. And when I was younger, I didn't really like it because I was like, oh, why are you guys coming here? But I realized it was good. It was for the better. It was good for competition. It was good to have more people to race. It made me a better rider. So overall, I'm thankful. And I mean, I was doing the same thing. I was going down across the border to go race in the States. So it's like, why shouldn't it work both ways?
Have you ever had any issues at the border with your luggage?
Actually, kind of funny story. When my parents would send me with other families, once I started getting older, to go down to nationals, I would go with them. And I was really young at the time, and I had my different passport. So sometimes they would stop me, and they're like, "Why are you taking this girl that has a different last name? Like, what's going on here?" Like, they were super worried about it. And then I ended up having to have my parents like write a handwritten note every time I left. So they're saying like, "Oh, I allow my daughter to travel with these people to this place for this reason."
Nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
But with
I didn't
bags
even
and
think
stuff,
about
it's
that.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. So you said you were born in Canada, right?
Mhm.
So are you racing Worlds?
I unfortunately am not racing Worlds this year. Our qualifiers were over the summer of last year, and I didn't end up going to any of them. I didn't have them like on my radar. They were kind of far away from me, so I didn't end up going to any of the races. And I tried to do like a online application, but I didn't have enough of the criteria to fit it. I wish I was. I really wish I paid more attention to it, but unfortunately, I'm not.
You've done it before?
I raced Worlds when it was in Rock Hill, and that was in 2017.
Right.
And then the only other Worlds that I went to, I actually went to Worlds in Belgium. Then I think it was the next year.
Nice.
I went to Worlds in Belgium, and that was as a junior. So that was the 1 year I did junior, but I decided it wasn't for me.
So did you race for what, Canada when you went there?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when it comes to your bike, who does the maintenance on it?
Definitely not me. I like to know what's happening with my bike, but if something's wrong with my bike, I have no idea where to start or how to fix it. So growing up, it was always my dad. Like he dealt with everything, had all the parts, and was always checking up on it, cleaning it, swapping out parts, doing whatever it was that he did with it. I just rode the bike.
Okay.
But as I got older, I started traveling by myself, and then I realized that I had to learn how to take it apart enough to fit it in a bag and put it back together. So I knew how to do that, but now that I'm here, and I mean, if something goes wrong here, I'm either asking one of the boys on the marrying team or my boyfriend here on the marrying team, or we have a bike mechanic for the marrying team, and they're all very helpful, and
Oh, that's cool.
they'll show me how to do it or do it for me.
Right.
So,
Cool.
so I think you said it was your parents that brought you to the track for the first time.
Yeah.
Do you remember who it was, like specifically? Was it mom or dad? And did either one of them race or have an interest in racing at any time?
Yeah. So my mom grew up and she did mountain biking. Like, so that was always her thing growing up. She was really good. So she loved the cycling community, I guess you could say, and she always wanted us to kind of get into it. And then my dad, he grew up in a kind of more of a traditional household, and his parents, he wanted to do racing when he was younger, BMX racing, but his parents, my grandparents, they were very strict, and they were like, oh, that sport is too dangerous. Like, we don't want you doing that. It's not going to be good. So, I mean, I guess when they got together, they just had this brilliant idea of going to the BMX track. And then, I mean, my mom loved it. My dad kind of lived his dream, like, through us kids. And then like throughout the years, like they would race a little bit, but it was definitely all the focus was on the kids and making sure we were the best.
That's usually what it is. It's usually a parent that used to race or that wanted to race as a kid. Now they have the opportunity to have their kid race, so they go for it.
Because I had no idea that this sport was a sport, and I was like, oh, okay, sure.
So the moment that it became official for you, where you're like, I know this is what I want to do, what was the first big brand bike that you got?
I remember my very first bike that wasn't from Walmart. I think it was a Powerlite.
Nice.
And then when we started to get serious and my dad started like building us, I guess you could say, like the better bikes, I had this Croupi that I really liked, and that was my first. Like, it was a Croupi frame. I had rainbow titanium spokes. I had like stealth hubs, and that was my first bike where I was like, okay, I'm gonna win some races on this bike. And I think it was.
Nice.
So that one's like in my head. I'm always constantly thinking back to that bike. I'm like, damn, I wish I still had that bike.
One that got away.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's usually our next question. Do you still have it? So I guess you answered that
I
one.
wish. I wish. That was my favorite thing.
Are you the only one in your family that still races?
Yeah, unfortunately I am. My siblings, they kind of fell into other sports when they were younger. And then my parents, kind of when I grew up and moved away, they're kind of like less involved. They're still, of course, very supportive in everything I do.
Right.
But I'm the only one that races now.
Have you played any other sports as a kid?
I did a few in like elementary school and high school. I mean, I think I did basketball and like track and field, but I honestly was never very good at those sports. I wasn't very coordinated, which I don't know, kind of funny because I feel like I'm a little bit coordinated on a bike, but other than that, I didn't really excel at any other sports, but I enjoyed playing whatever I was doing in high school or elementary school.
Do you jump when you're out there?
Like racing?
Mm-hmm.
I try to. I wish I had the confidence to just like do it more and like all the time. But I mean, if there's like doubles or like smaller jumps, I'll try to challenge myself with those. And
so jump. It's like one of those moments where if it feels right, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, if this is gonna be fast, like if I know I could do this, I'll go for it. Or if someone's like, Violet, you need to go jump that, I'll be like, oh, okay, if you say so.
Right. Okay. How would you say the competition is in your age class versus the difference between the age class you're in now versus the 17 to 20, because you went through that age group as well, right?
Yeah, so 17, 20 for me definitely was like, I want to say the hardest class that I've had, and I was in it for those 3 years, and it was very intense. There's always fast girls aging in, and that was a very, very difficult group. So, but I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed the competition. I thought it was good, but when I was 20 in my last year, I was like, oh, I just can't wait to age out. Like I can't keep up anymore. Like these girls are so fast. And I turned 21 in November before Grands. Mm-hmm. So Grands was my first race. I've only done really 3 races as 21-30. And the competition is definitely still hard. Like there's a lot of fast woman in this class for sure. But I would say it's just the numbers are just a little bit smaller, which I guess kind of makes it easier because there's still fast girls, but there's just not as many of them, less of a volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shannon.
So what type of bike do you ride now?
Right now I have a Rival.
And what size is it?
It is a Pro XL.
And how tall are you?
I'm about, I want to say like 5'8" 5'8.5".
Oh, you're one of the taller riders out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of the lengthier ones.
Okay.
Yeah, because definitely for the women, we noticed there a lot of them were really short, like 5'2", 5'3", and I didn't really realize that, because some of them I've never seen in person.
Right. No, they'll be short, but they'll be speedy for sure.
So I always try to get advice from them because I'm the shorter guy in the moto usually. So
oh yeah,
that's funny.
I mean, yeah, growing up I was always kind of on the shorter side, and then like sometime along the way I had my growth spurt and I ended up being the tallest one in the gate, and I could feel it when I stood up. I was like, oh, I'm really tall.
So it sounds like you never stopped racing since 7 years old, right?
Mm-hmm. For the most part, yeah.
Did you ever take a break? Was there ever a time you had to, maybe through an injury or just want to mentally just take a break?
I think during COVID, that was a really hard time. And I think in Canada, we canceled nationals for like 2 years, I think. So that was really hard. Like getting to practices was really difficult because we had to like have certain assigned times. So I guess you could say during that time, I was also graduating from high school. So I was also super concerned about my graduation and that not happening. So I wasn't really riding as much. But I think that was like kind of the biggest break that I took. And I was really, during that whole time, I was contemplating if I even wanted to continue racing or not, because I was just so upset that I hadn't been to the track in so long. We weren't having races, and I was really frustrated. So I'd say that was kind of a break in the 14 years I've been racing. Other than that, I mean, I think every year after Grands, I would have kind of like that winter just to be off my bike and spend time with my family and just, I don't know, be a kid. But the next season would come around and my parents would be like, okay, do you still want to do this? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
That's cool. I was saying that's cool. It sounds like they just left it up to her and didn't push her. Like, all right, let's go. Instead of like, do you want to go?
Yeah, they had those conversations like, okay, do you want to continue to do this? Like, do you want to go to all these races, or do you just want to maybe do it locally and do it for fun? So they're constantly checking in, which I really appreciated.
Cool.
What's the one thing you look forward to when going to Grands?
Going to Grands, I think growing up, it was always like, this is the race where I get to see all my friends. Like traveling around, I got to meet a lot of friends from even like the east side of Canada and in America too. And I always knew like, oh, this is the race where everyone's going to be together and it's going to be super fun. I also always would look forward to just kind of waiting to see like what kind of track layout there was going to be. And then when that was posted, I would love to like read through the comments and be like, oh, what are these people going to say? What are they going to say this year? Like, what's going to be the problem?
Yeah.
So
I'm always like, when's Dustin Jacobs going to chime in?
Yeah. It's funny. But other than that, I mean, the whole race, it's just kind of something I look forward to. I've been going to it for, I think, maybe like 9 years now. So it's kind of just in my routine. I know at the end of November, we're going to Tulsa.
Okay.
How nervous do you get before races?
I would say now I really don't. I try to not get that nervous. I try to like really talk myself out of getting nervous, because I find that if I'm just in a calm state, I will do so much better. So I kind of do everything in my power. I'll like talk to people. I'll like, I don't know, mainly just talk to people, get the nerves out and just kind of take it chill. When I was younger though, I was going for a lot more, like I was always going for the wins, I knew I was chasing a title or a nag plate. So I felt like there was a lot more pressure when I was younger. And I guess I feel like I put a lot of that pressure on myself. and I would get really nervous. Like the whole time I'm in the chutes, I was like a nervous wreck, and I was like, that was the one thing in the sport. I was like, why do I do this? This is awful. But then, I mean, I end up doing good. I don't know how. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that was so fun. Let's do it again. Until I get back up into staging. And I'm like, oh, this is awful.
Right?
I feel like I'm having a heart attack, bro. Why am I doing this, man? Jesus.
Yeah. But I mean, now I try to avoid that at all costs because I hated that feeling. I'm like, okay, it's chill. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just a race. I'm just going to go out there and ride my bike.
It seems like we do the same thing sometimes. We'll walk around and try to take our mind off the racing.
Yeah.
Then there's always one guy in the group that wants to hop in, and that's all they want to talk about. Yeah, when you hit this corner, you better do this, and that straight right there is gonna buck you. And this, it's like, shut up, bro. We like trying to hang out, not talk about, think about racing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Out of all the races that you've been to, what would you say your favorite track has been?
I think I have a few. I think everyone has a few. It's hard to narrow it down to just one. Well, but the track I started on, that I was talking about earlier, I feel like, I don't know if it's like I'm being biased or what, but I feel like it's very nostalgic going back there, and I feel like I'm my fastest at that track.
Right.
I don't know why, but I really enjoy going back to that track. I don't race it as much, but I like to ride it.
Right.
For racing, I really liked, what did I like? I like this other track that we have in Canada. It's the Abbotsford BMX track. That's the one that we have with the Supercross hill.
Okay.
And that one has always been a favorite of mine. Like, just, I always thought it was really fun and technical track. So I liked racing there. I always loved it when we had a national there.
Do they ever film your guys' nationals at all there? And it just doesn't get to us for us to see? Like, you guys have something that you guys are able to see on your end or something?
I think, depending on like who's there at the races and what nationals are, I think there are a couple people who like go out of their way to film it themselves, and they have it like linked to their Facebook. But it's not like under BMX Canada, USA BMX. You're not going to find it other than that live stream link. But like, I'm sure if you looked hard enough, someone maybe, I don't know, maybe, but I've seen it a couple times where people are doing it themselves, or like, oh, that's really cool. Like, thanks for doing that. But there's nothing like that we have set for each race, unfortunately.
At the Supercross tracks, is it the same? They have the 5-meter hill and the 8-meter hill?
Yeah, we have the 8-meter hill. I'm not sure how tall our Am side hill is. It is 5. Yeah, I guess it is 5. Then yeah, it is the same thing. I had to double check. I don't know.
Somebody's feeding you answers. I saw it.
Have you ever went down the big hill or ever wanted to?
Yeah. So the one year I was racing junior, I was training on the Supercross hill, and it took me a long time to get up there. And the way we had it, it was built as a triple, which was kind of nice because I would just do the half, but it also kind of sucked because I would only do the half and I wouldn't commit to the full thing. Eventually I did, and I did it for a year, and I was training on the Supercross hill, and that's when I went to Belgium as a junior. I did a couple other races on the 8-meter hills, but after that season went over, and I was like, I did take a lot of falls, and I was still not the most confident on it, and I didn't know if I ever was going to be. So that's when I kind of took a step back, and I was like, maybe I'm just going to stick to the amateur side.
Okay. When you went to Belgium to race, did you feel like, I can't believe I'm in a whole nother country riding a BMX bike? Did you go through that whole?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, earlier in that year, actually, I was racing the pump track series, the Red Bull pump track series. So I actually won the qualifier that was in Canada. So then I got my trip paid for the pump track world in Switzerland, and that was earlier the year. So that was kind of my first moment of, oh my gosh, I'm in a different country riding my bike, and that was really surreal to me. But Belgium definitely was this kind of the same thing. Like, I've never been to like I went to Worlds, but I feel like it was a little bit different because I've been to America before, but in Belgium it was definitely a surreal experience.
Did you get to at least sightsee, or is it something you guys just have to stay in the hotel and just, prepare for racing, I guess, when you're there for those 4 or 5 days?
Definitely we got to see a couple sites, like kind of drive around, and like I feel like it was just we were staying in this nice little city, so we would like take our tall seats and kind of go ride around the city in the hotel, which I thought was really cool. And that was all I really needed. I wasn't really eager to like do anything crazy because I thought I was already so happy with just where I was.
Right. Okay.
How many bikes do you own?
Right now I have my the bike that I race here, and then back at home I have my I think like a old dirt jumper that I've kind of just used on the side. But
Oh,
yeah,
so
just the one bike.
no trail bike or mountain bike?
No, I really want to. I've been with the school. They let us do mountain biking, and I've really loved it all. Like I've done it for 3 years, and it's awesome. But I do use the school's bikes that they have just for the team bikes.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he recently started getting into mountain biking. So when I'm home, he has a couple other bikes, and then I'll just use one of his bikes. I haven't gotten around to getting my own bike yet.
Okay.
But that's kind of why I asked, because you said your mom, and then
Mhm.
Canada. I know just Canada is huge on that.
It is, yeah. I never really wanted to do it when I was younger. Like they always kind of like, oh, do you want to try mountain biking? And I was like, no, what the heck? Like I'm good in BMX. And then just recently I started going back home and kind of riding the trails with my dad. And I was like, why didn't I do this earlier too? Like this is awesome.
What about downhill or like dual slalom?
Yeah, so that's mainly the main two that I do. I can't do like the long distance stuff. Like that is a little too intense for me, but the downhill for sure. Some of the trails I've done have been a little bit too intense for me and I get a little scared, but for the most part I have a lot of fun. And same with dual slalom. Like we have been racing that in the collegiate series and at the collegiate nats for mountain bikes, and I've really enjoyed that too. It's kind of just like BMX.
That looks so fun, man.
It
Oh
is
God.
fun. If you ever get the chance to try it, I definitely recommend it because you'll have a blast.
Especially after seeing all those BMX guys that end up over there, at least
Yeah,
trying it out.
right?
You know, I
And
saw
they just
Drew
excel.
Polk on the dual slalom hill. I said, "Oh my
Right.
God!"
And
Yeah.
and we all just do so good because I don't know, the skills kind of transfer over.
And you can tell when you see him ride all
Yeah,
day.
definitely. Especially right out of the gate, even on those big bites, they're snapping.
Yeah. Out of the 14 years of racing, is there one in particular race that you wish you can do over?
I guess most recently, the grands that we just had in Tulsa, I had a flat in my semi like right before the gate. So that would definitely be one. I wish I were to go back and not have a flat and race that semi because I didn't make the main, obviously.
Right.
That's the one I have most recently in my head where I'm like, oh, that hurts.
Did you switch your bike or what did you end up doing?
Well, I was getting ready for my semi for my class, and I kept, I literally was about to go down to staging, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have a flat tire. And then my boyfriend and I were scrambling to get it fixed, and we ended up getting a new tube, and I thought all was fine. But then I got to staging, and I got behind the gate, and I realized I'm like, oh, like this is flat again, and I was so frazzled, and I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I don't know what to do, and I was just like so overwhelmed in that moment. I was like, oh, this is really happening. Like, there's nothing I can do. Yeah.
Wow.
But then we bought a new tire, bought a new tube, and then I was able to race my open, so it was fine. My open main, and it was fine.
Okay.
And I knew it wasn't me. It was the bike. Like there was nothing I can do, so I wasn't that mad at myself about it or mad at anybody. I definitely wish I could have raced that semi.
Right.
Have you ever raced cruiser?
I did cruiser for 1 year at the Canadian races. It was the year I won the Canadian national girl title, and I wanted to try to win both of the titles, like cruiser and amateur girl. So I did cruiser for 1 year, and I didn't end up getting enough points, and I didn't win it for cruiser. But I won it for class. I didn't win for cruiser, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I couldn't do what I wanted to do, so I kind of left it alone after that.
Did it feel the same though when you like, because I'm assuming you're racing cruiser and class in the same day? Did it feel the same jumping from bike to bike, or was it like a big difference for you?
Yeah, that was also another thing. I felt like I was very particular, and I did not enjoy like doing a lap on cruiser and doing class, because I got on the gate and I was like, is this even my bike? It just felt so weird. And that was another thing. I was like, I don't think this is helping me. Like, this is getting in my head and it's just too weird for me. I know a lot of people that can just make the switch, and like, I don't know how they do it, but right. I definitely wasn't something I was able to do.
Okay. Do you have any issues like getting bike parts or frames or anything up there?
Not really. I mean, like, the people that are here, I mean, I've met them like through the cycling team, and they're all very helpful, and everyone knows of someone where you can get some part. So I feel like I've never like had to like scramble for parts or bikes, and everyone's been very, very helpful to me. So
what's the BMX bike shop scene like out there? Is there a lot of bike shops like going on with BMX? Because I know there's a lot of mountain bike shops and everything specific, but BMX seems to be one of the hard shops to get into.
That I actually don't know. I feel like there's got to be a couple around here, but like BMX specific bike shops, I have no idea.
Yeah, and that's why I asked, because I met a dude through Facebook that's in Toronto. He's like, it's so difficult to get parts for his kids. And a lot of times he's looking for used parts, but even new parts, he says by the time he pays for shipping,
right,
it's just way too much for him to afford. So he actually got a PO box in America, because he's only like 45 minutes over the border from New York. So he got a PO box in New York and gets his stuff shipped there, and then goes there once a month or whatever.
Right, that's smart. And that, now that I think about it, like when I was in Canada, I do kind of remember like it took a while to get parts in, just with like the shipping would be an outrageous cost, and like having to wait for, I guess, the international shipping.
Customs, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the times, like, since there were so many tracks where I grew up, like a lot of people would just kind of like have little swap meets, and kind of everyone would help each other, and kind of the parts got switched around that way with all the used stuff, but definitely harder to get that stuff shipped in.
Yeah.
And who are all your current sponsors right now?
So I'm riding for, I currently started riding for Fly Racing Canada, which is a Canadian team based out of Alberta, Canada. And I reached out to them just wanting to, because before that I wasn't really riding for anyone other than Marion. And I hadn't been for a while. I hadn't been on a factory team, just kind of doing my own thing. And then in those years, I kind of missed having that kind of team aspect, or like those younger riders that I was able to talk to or kind of like help out, or just having that kind of team environment.
Right.
So I reached out to them, and they were able to kind of offer me a deal, and they're like, yeah, like we want you part of the team and kind of as a role model. So we made a deal there, and they're very helpful to me, send me the things I need. And yeah, I haven't been back home in Canada since, but I've met a couple of them at the races in America, and I've been able to meet them, and they're awesome people. And I just like to be able to kind of represent a Canadian team, so it's awesome. Yeah. And then I have one of the Marion graduates. He graduated in graphic design, and he does plates now. Ronan Weber. He always does my plates, and they look super good. Nice. For R9 designs. Yeah, it's awesome.
Do you feel like American riders are more aggressive than Canadian riders?
I think it depends. Definitely, I feel like the competition is definitely harder here. So I feel like a lot of the time they're going so much harder. And when growing up, and I feel like my friends and I, whenever we saw American riders come up to Canada, we'd be like, wow, they are so good. They are so fast. Like, they know what they're doing. And I guess that kind of comes with the aggressiveness. But I feel like it kind of just depends. I feel like I myself can be an aggressive rider at times, like when I want to be. But overall, maybe I would say that they are just a little bit more aggressive, just because they have the tougher composition, and there's just a lot more So as a result of that.
And when you were in Canada, did you ever get to race with like Molly Simpson?
Oh yeah, I grew up racing her, and so she was from Alberta, and I lived in British Columbia, so we were about 10 hours apart.
Okay.
And she started coming to coming to British Columbia for our races and the BMX Canada races, and we raced each other growing up, and it was always a really good battle. And we went to that Belgium Worlds together, and then after I decided I wasn't really gonna excel at like that level, I kind of was able to watch her grow and like get to where she is today. And I thought that was just awesome, like being like, oh, I raced her, now like where she is now, just watching her whole journey. And I'm always supporting her, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself seeing a lot of riders that maybe you raced from when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've raced like a lot of the girls in the US, like Pina and Lexi, and like even Mackenzie. I grew up racing them as well. I would always race them at Grants. I was kind of the one race I'd race them, and I remember even like at a young age they were always like the ones to beat, or like the ones that were up for the titles, and they were always the fastest ones. So it's cool,
Right.
And like talking to them and being able to see them out at the World Cups and everything like that, it's really cool as well.
Nice. So so what was the reason why you chose Marion College?
So I graduated high school in 2020, and this was during the COVID, and this was during me contemplating if I even wanted to race anymore, and I was just having all these thoughts, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And it was actually Olivia Armstrong who reached out to me. She was at Marion at the time, and she texted me, and she was like, hey, like, have you considered going to a school where you can do cycling and get an education? And I honestly, at that time, I had no idea that Marion existed. I had no idea about the whole collegiate scene. And I was like, I have never even considered that. Like tell me more. And she was kind of just tell me everything about Marion and what she told me to get in contact with the coach, which is what I did. And I learned more from him. And I was like, this is a really cool deal that I like all throughout high school. I never considered. I never had any plans of going to school in a different country. And so during that COVID time, I was also on like Canada was really strict on their lockdown and their quarantine. Yeah. So I've been stuck in my house, and I was kind of thinking in the back of my head, I was like, I bet, or what I was seeing like online, I was like, America definitely doesn't have as strict as rules right now. And I knew that all my friends, they were applying to universities in Canada, and they were like, yeah, we have to do online for the first semester. And I was like, I cannot do that. So part of the reason why I committed to Marion was, of course, I was like, this is going to keep me in the sport, which it has been, and it definitely is. And it also, I was able to kind of get that in-person experience for my first year and not be stuck online, and just kind of branch out and basically just get out of my house.
Right.
So and then I went there, and I didn't do a visit or anything. I flew there the first day. I showed up, and I was like, okay, this is where I live now. And wow. I mean, it's been awesome because I love it. So
you just jumped out there, huh?
I'm like, yeah. You got a whole different experience than my kid.
I was on
high school. Oh, go ahead.
I was on the plane, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, am I really doing this right now? Like, this is crazy, because it's not just like a race weekend. Like, this was going to
be right. So with that being said, is there like a quota? You have to race so many races a year. You have to like place so many races in a year. Like
with the university.
How do you manage to keep like on the team or whatever?
Yeah, so they don't really. The one race that they have us do, that they the one race that they expect us to do and like be fully ready for, is our collegiate nationals, which is actually coming up in Missouri this year. But other than that, they take us to a few races throughout the year, like the Virginia race. They took us to as a team, so we drive in a bus. We stayed in an Airbnb, which was really fun, and we eat our meals together. And then same with Louisville, they also took us to that race. The team did. And they're very supportive. It's like fully supported race. But other than that, like they're very they don't expect us to do a certain amount of races or place a certain place a certain place.
Right.
But they are very supportive, and like I'll get kind of the missed class forms written from my coach to excuse me from the classes so that I'm able to go to these races if I choose to.
Right.
Which is something that I really like because there's not really any expectations other than that collegiate national. But even at that race, the only expectation is that I do my best for the team.
So how long after you found out about the school were you actually there going to the school?
So I'm in my 4th year now, so I'm about to graduate. So I've been here for 4 years.
No, I mean from the time Olivia told you about the school to the time you actually were on the plane going to live at the school. Like it seemed like it kind of happened quick.
Oh yeah, it did. This was all kind of over the summer, and my plans are all over the place because like with the borders, they were opening and closing, and I was like, okay, they're closed, but students are allowed, and then it was like fully closed. So I think I changed my plan like 3 times within like that 2 months. I'm like, okay, I'm going. Okay, I'm not going. And then I finally ended up, I was like, okay, I'm going. And I think I decided sometime in the summer, and then I know classes started in August, which is weird for me because in Canada, our classes always started in September. So it was definitely a quick turnaround, like after graduating and then having the summer to kind of figure out everything and then leave.
Okay. What's been your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment, I think my favorite race was my last race in 1720 at Grands. My goal was to make the main, and I was riding really good throughout the weekend, and I made the main, and I was super happy. Like I was already checked the boxes, and I ended up getting 3rd in that race. Nice. And like that was definitely one of my biggest accomplishments because I mean I was just happy to be in the main, and to get a podium was just like the cherry on top for me for sure.
So did you take the trophy or the stamps?
I took the trophy. Yeah, I think it's back behind there. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I was asking everybody though, because everyone's always like, "Yeah, stamps." Then you're like, "We go to Grand, what are you taking?" Like trophy. Don't even ask
trophy.
Me.
Yeah,
trophy.
That's definitely the one.
Stamp shouldn't even be an option.
Yeah, it's like really. That's just by default. Yeah, but growing up, like doing the other nationals, like it was always stamps because my mom would kill me because she had 3 kids and she was like, no more trophies in this house. Like you guys are not getting any more trophies. Like I collecting dust in the house. So, which I mean, I was fine with. I was cool with the stamps.
Right.
And so coming from Canada, you're not allowed to race the Rock, right? You're not invited to the Rock, or are you?
It's kind of weird because you guys have like your state races that help you qualify for the Rock. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And that's under USA BMX. And then in BMX Canada, we have like similar races. They're just called provincial races, and we have a series. So if the Canadians do the provincial series, then they get to qualify for the Rock because I guess it's like the equivalent, like the state races and the provincial races.
Okay.
But I have raced the Rock like in the past, but these last couple Grands that I've been to, like I didn't do enough of the provincial races over the summer, so I just ended up not qualifying for Rock, which I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I was kind of happy just to have those couple days at Grands just to chill and watch racing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, how much of a difference is it like racing the Rock? Because that takes up another 2 days, and that also gives you more time on the track, though, But
yeah, that's very true. I remember when I was younger, I think I raced the Neg 5 Challenge, and then I raced Rock, and then open in class in Rock, and open in class at Grands, and the extra track time helped me, but yeah, it was a lot. And by the end of the week, I think I slept for like 2 days after that. So it's a lot, but I feel like it can be helpful.
Okay.
Oh, let me ask you about the gates up there. The gate that was at Grands was last year and the year before, the paddle gate. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any of those gate systems up there in Canada?
Not that I have seen. I know I feel that would only be for our indoor tracks, and we only really have the indoor track for the season opener and the Grands. And I think that I haven't been to those races in a while, but I don't think that they have that, at least not any of the ones that I've been to. But even riding that for the first time at Grandins, it was kind of weird for me to see that.
So there's only that building hosts races only twice a year?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just...
Yeah, it's kind of similar to like Tulsa or any of the other indoor tracks where it's used for other things, and they build it up for the weekend and then tear it down at the end.
So is it 2 different tracks for those 2 events? Or?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because our season doesn't start till May, so May is usually the first national of the year, which is super late. And then our grands are during our Thanksgiving, which is in October.
Gotcha. All right.
Nice. So I forgot you guys have a different Thanksgiving out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, both my Thanksgivings were always spent at the track.
Makes sense.
Do you prefer indoor or outdoor racing?
I like the environment of an outdoor race. I like, especially during the summer, I like being like in the sun and just having that being outside, I guess. But I tend to do better on the indoor tracks. I feel like it's just smaller and less intimidating, and I feel like I ride a little bit better knowing that nothing's going to happen to me if I fall, or nothing bad at least, because it's an indoor track and the dirt's nice and soft.
Do you have, like, are the majority of the tracks up there have paved berms?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of them. There's a few, or one of the tracks I'm thinking of is like fully dirt, kind of like Phoenix. But like the Abbotsford track and the track in Surrey that I was talking about, those are all paved turns.
Okay. Nice. When it comes to the dirt tracks, have you ever been to Rum River?
I have not, no. I've been wanting to. It looks like a cool track.
Right. I'm like, I hear nothing but good things about it. So me and Shannon were talking about maybe going up there for that national later this year.
Oh, that would be cool.
Are you planning on doing Rock Hill?
I'm actually not, just because I'm not racing Worlds, so I kind of
don't really need to.
Yeah, I decided to not go on just a really busy time.
Okay. In college, what's your degree in? Like, when you're done with college, where are you going with it?
Right now I'm studying social work, and then I have a minor in French studies and peace and justice studies. And my original plan was to go back to Canada and become a police officer. I came to Marion and I wanted to study criminology, but they didn't offer it at the time. Right. So then I ended up picking something else for social work, which I feel like will transfer over a little bit. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay here for a year after I graduate and kind of find some sort of field of work within social work, and kind of work for a year and see how I like it here.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a long 4 years and very, very busy semester. I'm about to graduate in May, so definitely a lot going on.
Yeah.
So when you're on the road, do you have to do any schoolwork?
Yes. We'll all be on the bus and we all have our laptops open doing whatever we're doing, like especially if we're missing a Thursday, Friday class to go travel to the races. We got a lot to catch up on. But I mean, it kind of just depends on the person. Like if you're a really good student, which I try to be, but I'm definitely not always, you'll have your stuff done before the weekend, so you don't have to worry about it. But we're all busy and everyone has training, so we're usually on the road doing it.
Okay. What's been your biggest injury?
I've been really lucky, actually. I have never broken anything, never had anything major like that. I mean, knock on wood. Right. I've definitely had a few kind of bigger crashes, but I've walked away, maybe like a concussion. Other than that, I've been pretty healthy, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
So let me ask, I don't know the rules for Canada as far as clipping in and the age for clipping in. Recently, they kind of reversed the rule. You were able to clip in from day one, and then all of a sudden they made it so anybody under 12 couldn't clip in. So there were kids that were riding clipped in for years, and then they had to go back to flats.
Right.
Yeah. Was it like that up there also?
So growing up, it was really weird because we had the two different sanctions. We were doing the BMX Canada. We had BMX Canada tracks, and we also had like the Cycling Canada UCI tracks. So they kind of had two different set of rules. And I don't remember exactly like what it was, but I do remember that I was old enough and like had the right qualifications. Like I was expert, or I was like an expert girl. So I was able to always ride clips when I decided to ride clips. But I remember my younger brother, he was like right in that weird age. I think it was like maybe 12 or something, that he was allowed. His UCI year was like 13 maybe, and he was allowed to race clips at those UCI tracks. But for the BMX Canada tracks, he had to ride flats. So it was kind of weird because like we would go from race to race and he would have to switch them out every time. But I don't remember exactly what the rule is.
I think there were a lot of upset parents about that, and some kids also, I'm sure.
Yeah, I remember it was always like such a talk because everyone was like, why can't we just have one rule? Like, why is it all different? And why can't my kid just race in clips? And it was definitely a big deal.
Right. True. When it's all said and done, because you're going to be racing for a little bit longer. When it's all said and done, what would you like to be remembered for in the sport? Because you've been doing it for a while, so I'm sure there's people out there who've heard of you, looked up to you. So what would you like to be remembered for?
I mean, I want to be remembered for maybe being that girl at the track that is just always willing to like help out, or maybe like talk to the younger girls, younger riders, and offer support, and just being that role model overall, just to like have everyone wants to have this person at the track who they can look up to and who they could like confide in or ask questions to, or basically not afraid to go approach and go have a conversation with them. I want to be approachable and be able to kind of talk to whoever wants to talk to me.
Okay. So let's just say I got a 10-year-old son. He's been racing for 2-3 years. He finally just, he went novice, intermediate pretty easily, flew by on it, gets the expert, and now he can't seem to catch a break. He's just always in the back of the pack. What would you kind of say to motivate them to want to keep racing if they were just like, I don't want to do this anymore, it's not fun?
I would tell them that this is a hard sport to be in, and like what he's feeling, I can guarantee him that a million other riders and a million of his like maybe favorite pros or favorite riders to look up to have felt exactly how he's feeling now, just can't seem to get his groove or be as good as he was maybe in an novice or inter. And I would tell him that this is all kind of part of the journey in the sport and the fun part about BMX. But I would tell him that he's just kind of keep working through it, and that I know that he'd be able to eventually kind of catch his break. And if he keeps just on the right track, like that, good things will be coming for him.
Nice.
How hard were your parents on you when you raced, as far as like winning or even trying? Because some parents, like, as long as you try, the kids are good.
Right.
But there's some parents, even though their kids are out there trying because they didn't podium, they like they might get a tongue lashing.
Right.
How do you, I mean, what would you say to parents out there that just like, oh, too hard on their kids?
I think for myself growing up, I guess part of that conversation we would have at the beginning of the year is like, okay, do you want to do this at like full intensity, or do you want to just chill and race your local and do it for fun? And I was always say, I want to do this at full intensity. And my parents were like, okay, though, that means we're going to be hard on you. We're going to have that pressure on you. We're going to want you to win, but we're not going to do that. We can be the chill parents, but like, you have to understand that you aren't going to win those races because we're not kind of going hard on you. So I was always like, okay with having that pressure and having that kind of like hard love. Like, my parents were, I wouldn't say they were ever like overly mad at me or ever kind of like pushed too hard on me, but they definitely had that motivation and they wanted me to do good. And my mom, she would always be like calculating the points and being like, you have to beat this person. You have to put this many people if you want to be in this NAG standing. So she was fully in it. Both my parents were.
That's pretty
cool.
Like,
going into the race, she'd be like, okay, if you get second, it's fine. You'll still be in first place for the standings. Like, don't worry. But like seeing parents nowadays with their kids, I feel like it's a little bit upsetting sometimes to see like if parents are like overly hard on them, or they're just overly emotional. Like if a kid's crying at the finish line, they're just getting an earful. I'm like, that's not going to be the most helpful, but I get it. It's like an emotional sport, and there's definitely a lot of feelings going around, like at the end of the race.
Yeah. But sometimes, especially at certain kids' levels, that's all I'm thinking. Like, bro, this is a race, man. Like, it's a local sometimes, like your kid's a novice. It's like, it ain't that serious, man, but you still have those parents, at that level that think they should just be winning everything.
And that's hard sometimes because, like you said, it'll be a local or it'll be like a younger kid who's a novice. Like if you want to keep them in the sport, you got to find that balance. You want to support them in a loving way, because you don't want to scare them away from the sport when they haven't even like been able to reach their full potential yet.
Right.
And that there's a relationship after BMX, that they would like to keep,
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. So you have a coach now, right? Since you're in college, you have like a college coach?
Yeah, we have our coach that's he's the coach of the BMX team, so he's there at all the practices offering us help and making sure we're all put together and everyone's got their bikes in order and themselves in order.
Okay. Did you have a coach prior to coming to college?
Not necessarily. I did some riding with Cycling Canada, so I had the coach from the Canadian cycling team, which is very helpful to me. Like during my year as junior and kind of leading up to that, like I was on a couple development teams and kind of that sense of a coach. But I mean, other than that, I haven't really had a coach for like a longer period of time.
Okay.
Do they go into nutrition at all with you guys, or is it just training?
At our school right now, we do have a nutritionist on the cycling team, or we have her, and she comes to our meetings and kind of talks about nutrition and what we should be eating, and she's always available as a resource to all of us, which is really helpful. Really nice.
Right there.
Yeah, I know. Very grateful.
Okay. So have you ridden a carbon frame?
I have not ever ridden a carbon frame.
Do you have carbon wheels?
No, I don't think there's really anything carbon on my bike right now, or anything major.
I was saying, not even the forks?
Sorry, the forks are. I have a few parts on my bike that are carbon, but I've never been on a carbon frame or carbon wheels.
Okay. Nice.
But honestly, I know it kind of has a different feel to it, but I'm not really one to kind of know the difference between bikes and like different geometry or different make. To me, it's just like, if you give me a bike, I'm gonna ride it and I'm gonna think it's a good bike.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm totally 100% agree with that. It's either gonna fit or it's not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm either gonna like it or not. I don't know why I like it or don't like it, but.
And once again, here come the parents, like, spending money on the kid's new frame because the kid's not winning. Like, this frame right here is gonna make them win,
Right. Yeah. I mean, some people do think like that, and if they want to think like that, all power to them. But definitely, it's all within how you ride the bike.
And when we come from the era, there was one size bike. That was it. And you just do different size bars, and position them different, maybe a laid back seat or something, but yeah.
You guys made it work.
Yeah. You just adapted, whether you were tall, short, whatever.
That's cool.
So you've raced both sides of nationals. When it rains in Canada, do they prolong it or y'all just roll through it?
I haven't been to a national while where it's rained, which is kind of funny, but when it does rain, I think we do the same thing. Like we'll have a delay, and we kind of have that luxury since we don't have as many motos that we can delay it for a while, and we'll still have the time of day, and it won't be super late into the night. So I think that's really helpful for them. I do remember one race growing up. I was at a national, and it was like pouring rain the whole Saturday, and like no one could race. They kept delaying it, but the rain just would not stop. And then what we ended up doing was we completely canceled the race on Saturday, and we raced both national races on the Saturday. So we fulfilled like the whole Sunday's race, and then after mains, we just started right back again from round one and did a whole nother national.
Wow. That's
I was
a lot of racing.
Yeah, I was super young. I barely remember it. Like I think I was I don't know, maybe like 10 or 12. And I remember on the Saturday, I was like selling my little bracelets that I made because we were just not doing anything and being tired on Sunday because I had to race twice.
Right, right.
Man, I think I'd probably prefer that to race just twice. If you could, if there's,
Right.
not too many motos, just get it over with. 2 nationals one day.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't know.
it ended up being that bad. I think we still got out at a reasonable hour, and I mean, I was young. I had so much energy in me. A couple extra laps didn't really make a difference for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you been to Rock Hill on a Friday night, like when they ran the mains past midnight?
Yes, I was there last year for both of them, and I was like, "This is crazy. I'm so tired right now."
Was it last year when all the tents were popping up and flying across the parking lot?
Yeah, that was also crazy too. Definitely a couple crazy races there, Rock Hill, and I was kind of scared to race. I'm like, how am I going to stay on my bike?
Yeah, honestly, that was the year when I was trying to qualify for Worlds, and I made the semis, and it was just raining and raining. My girlfriend just looked at me. She's like,
Just
"You're not going out there, aren't you?" And I was like, "Nope." I was like, "You ready to go to the hotel room?" And she's like, "Yep."
Yeah, fair enough.
Look, he's shaking his head over there like, "I don't win."
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I raced in the rain again, I fell, and I was like, never again, man. And it was just drizzling, but the track was wet.
Yeah, it's. I get scared if it's raining, especially if it's like pavement corners, and I try to keep in my head. I'm like, I'll be fine. My tires will hold me up, but in the back of my head, I'm like terrified.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly how I feel. 110% on that one. So, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I like the dystopian film series. So I was really into like the Divergent series and Hunger Games series. I haven't watched the new one yet, but I really like those. But other than that, I really like the movie Clueless. It was just always one of my favorites, and since I was younger, so I guess it's still my favorite movie today.
I just heard that they're going to do a part 2 to that next year.
Really? Oh, I did not know that.
With the original cast? They're going to be like the parents, I think, to the...
Oh, okay. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I definitely want to watch that. I had no idea.
Right? Like I said, just random. I just saw that today. So, and I think that's really cool because usually when we ask riders what their favorite movie is, they're always training. They're always either training, eating, or working out, or and I'm like, "What's your?" And then like they're deer headlights. They're like, "I can't even tell you when the last time I saw a movie." And I'm like, "Yikes!" So that's pretty cool that you were able to at least have some sort of life balance.
Yeah,
and you have an off season. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely important. I try to balance out everything I can, like not be too overwhelmed and not tear myself down too much with riding. So all I really do is I'm at the track riding as much as I can. And that for me isn't really like work or training because I genuinely enjoy like being out at the track to ride. So I find that that's very helpful.
I think KJ Romero just put out a video and it has like a picture of him. It says missing on the title. It was just him talking about just like having fun riding. Because there was like many seasons that he just took it, he thinks, kind of serious, and just it didn't pan out the way he thought it was, and it was just a lot mentally and physically, and with his family, financially, he has a new kid now, so he's just kind of telling everybody like it's okay to not have to want to do a better lap every time or just train all the time and win all the time. It's okay to just go out on your bike and have fun. You're still racing, you're still good, you're still and you probably do even better then when the pressure's not on. Like you said, when you ride more comfortably, you ride better,
Right. And that's very true for me. I feel like, I love the sport for a reason. I don't ever want to like push myself out of loving the sport.
What kind of music are you listening to?
Music, I'm honestly listening to whatever's playing right now. Like I'll be on my Spotify and I'll just look at the new popular songs and I'll listen to like hip hop, I'll listen to pop, I'll listen to like rock, I'll listen to country. I'm really not too picky. So I'll listen to anything really.
So you don't have like a pump up theme music in your head when you're on your way to track?
Yeah, I honestly I don't even listen to music when I'm at races because I feel like if I got my AirPods in and I'm like listening to music, I feel like I'm gonna just like get too focused in myself and kind of get into the zone I don't want to be in. So I try to just stay social, stay present. But I mean, if we're out on the way to the track as a team, there's usually someone's playing something, and I'll vibe to whatever's playing.
Right. While you're racing, can you hear what's going on outside the race, like on the sidelines or the announcer announcing? Or do you just black out and just don't hear anything?
Sometimes I'll listen. Like there'll be very few things. I try to stay focused, but one thing that stands out to me is like if I hear an announcer and then my last name's a little tricky. If I hear them pronounce my name wrong, I'll listen to it and I'll be like, oh, that's not how you pronounce it. I'm like, oh, I gotta stay focused. So I'm really trying hard not just to stay focused, but I think it's funny because I'll kind of laugh to myself while I'm in the race. I'm like, oh, that's silly. I mean, when I was younger, my mom used to always be yelling, so I would hear her being like, "Go, baby," or just yelling, and then at one point I'm like, "Hey, mom, I love you, but like, can you just keep it down?" That's so you're distracting me, but yeah, I feel like I hear a little bit of everything while I'm racing, but it goes by so fast I barely remember.
Is your head down? I'll say, is your head down in the gate?
I'm usually looking at the lights for the gate, and then when the gate drops, I'm usually just staring right at that first jump and try to not think about what's going on beside me, but just looking right into that first jump.
Okay. Do you take deep breaths, or do you say a prayer, or is there anything you do like regularly when you're getting in the gate?
I try to, like, right before the gate, that's definitely when my nerves start to kick in and I'm like talking to myself. I'm like, okay, chill. And I try to take that like one deep breath, like super deep breath, just to kind of let it out. I'm like, okay, it doesn't even matter. It's just another race. Just get in the gate. And that's kind of like the last thing I tell myself before the cadence starts.
Nice. And do you have a favorite gate? And do knowing your gates going into the shoot, does that mess with you sometimes if you have a gate you don't particularly like?
I'm one that I always like to know exactly like what my gate is and who's beside me and where everybody is. I know some people are like, don't tell me anything, just tell me my gate. And then some people are like, don't even tell me my gate. I'll listen to when I get up there and I'll figure it out. Right. But for me, I really like to know in advance, but I try not to like super think into it. I'm like, okay, I'm in this gate. This person's beside me. This person's beside me. This is what I have to do. And like, that's it. That's all I think about it. Okay. But I mean, I get a little frazzled if I get up, if I like I'm late or something and I forget my gate. I'm like, oh my gosh, what gate I'm in? Because I just like to know where I'm going right out of the chutes and just like directly walk up to the gate.
Do you study the track when you get to a track?
I mean, right when I get to a track, I'm always very curious. I'm like, oh, let's go look at it, and I'll stare at it. But I mean, I won't know how any of like I can think, oh yeah, I can manual that, and I'll ride it, and I can't manual it. So I just kind of look at it to see what's going on, but I don't really plan out my lines or anything like that until after I'm able to ride the track.
How many laps do you need to have a track like, I mean, because we get to the national, sometimes we get 20 minutes. We'll be lucky to get 2 laps in. That's not enough for me, man. I'm still I'm like, oh, this is we're gonna die today, But I see you guys, you get out of there and you do 2 laps, and you're like, you're already manualing, jumping stuff. You kind of already know what you want to do after 2 laps. It blows my mind.
I mean, I feel like for girls, we're really lucky because our practices are usually a little less intense, and there's less of us. So we can get a couple more laps in. Like I think like sometimes in like the 20 minutes I can get like 5 laps in on like a really good day. But usually like I'll take the first lap, I'll ride it. The second lap, I'll like kind of see where I can manual and stuff. And then usually on the third lap, I'm like going at it at race speed and kind of really pushing myself.
Jeez, after 2 laps going race speed.
I feel like after so long, I'm like, okay, well, this is the reality. And I mean, everyone only gets this 20 minutes. We got to make the most of it. But there are some tracks where I really do struggle, and they'll be at the end of the practice, and I'll go into racing being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hold on and hope for the best.
Yeah, we go into the race. We're not even race speed at the race. You know.
Yeah, we're slow. But we're out there having fun. This is this is what we do.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and talk a little crap. At least me
Yeah,
and him.
on the side.
So
do you guys have fun like that? Talk crap to each other, like the ones that know each other.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're joking around and staging and talking, smack talking each other, but we all know we're not serious and we're all just here to have fun. So I think it's good. It's fun to have that kind of little back and forth if it's all for fun.
You talk while you're racing?
Not usually. I try not to because I feel like it'll distract me. And if I hear someone talking to me, it's very rare, but I usually laugh. I don't know why. That's my first instinct is just to laugh. I think it's funny. I'm like, why are you talking to me? We're racing right now. But I mean, I've heard of people like having full-on conversations, and like I can do that in practice. I'll be like, oh, go manual that. But in a race, I'm usually just focused on myself.
Okay. All right. Well, I got one last question because Shannon only allows me to have one off-the-wall question.
Okay.
So this is my question. Do you think that we landed on the moon?
That we landed on the moon?
Mm-hmm. Like
we
Americans.
as in
people in general, yeah.
I like to think so. I mean, that's what I was always taught, and I never thought anything different. So I think that we've been on the moon before.
Okay, cool. And Shannon, you got anything else you want to add?
I'm good. I don't have any off-the-wall questions.
That one caught me off guard. I really didn't know.
I could tell.
I mean, I'm the same way. I grew up thinking the same thing that you did, but it's like, no, the more I look into it, the more I'm like, nah, that's not possible.
I mean, yeah, I've never personally like had too much thought and like had enough curiosity to actually go deep into that rabbit hole. So as far as I know, yeah.
Right.
We landed on
it's one of those things too that when you go down it and you come out, everyone else starts looking at you. Go, so you believe the Earth is flat too? And I'm like, well, I didn't say that.
Yeah, you get too much of yourself.
Well, I thought he was going to ask you if you believed in ghosts, so that's what
I was going to go
for.
with that. It was going to be a toss-up.
Oh, that would have been hard too. I'd been like, I honestly don't know.
Okay. Well, Shannon, do you have any other questions that you want to ask?
That's it for now. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
And I believe we're going to release your episode this Thursday, so we'll let you know, and I'll tag you in it and everything.
Awesome. Yeah.
As well.
Sounds good.
So,
thank you.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
Thanks, guys. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.